Hello and welcome to the Global Podcast. My name is Gwinzer, and we are here to talk a little bit about what's going on in the world of Global Conflict, which is a Battlefield community playing on PC every week. You can go ahead and visit us at global-conflict.org to know more. With me today, we have Robert Willis,
Evening all.
Insanity Rocks,
Hey everyone.
and Undertow.
Howdy, howdy.
And today we are going to be talking about the end of the campaign. We're going to also mention what's going to be happening for the future of GC, including supporting new games and what we're going to be looking at in BF4. So going on about the campaign end, how do we feel about that today, guys? Today the Allies surrendered to the USS Mighty USSR. It was a while coming, I think. It was a bit of a short campaign, but I think it was definitely a surrender that had to, a campaign that had to end for the health of the community. How do we feel and how the campaign went?
To be fair, I think we had a bad start, and I think it just kept going on like that. I'm not gonna lie. Half our officer corps didn't turn up. Then some of our pro players didn't turn up, so it went a little bit downhill. And as you said, the community has been losing members of both sides of the army week in and week out. The whole idea of trying to trial things out might have damaged it a bit damaged the community a bit. So I think it's time to take a step back, take a breather, and figure out where to go from here.
Well, I wouldn't say advertising that we're testing things sort of hurt what happened. I would say that the fact that Battlefield was so broken hurt our campaign more so than anything else. When you have people leaving or saying this is my first time here, but after the SUAV, I'm not coming back. I mean, what can you do with that?
I think for the USSR part, as an army structure, that because we did also testing as an army, and we organize it in a different manner that we're used to in GC, and I think from that perspective, it was a successful test. I think we were quite organized. Unfortunately, the game wasn't good as the one we expected, and I have to agree with Insanity. I think that the reason that we kept losing people week after week was because of the game being so crap.
Yeah, I do have to say, disappointment with the game seems to be a kind of general theme for the majority of the community. We had a debrief with everyone after the our only army debriefs today, and quite a few people seem to express a wee bit of unhappiness with the current state of the game. Here's hoping the patch at the end of the month is going to sort that kind of issue. Though for the campaign, though, I do think that despite there being a lot of winning on one side, a lot of the maps in these previous few weeks have been touch and go for a lot of times. The ticket count hasn't shown it, and I did mention it last week, but we're seeing that the bleed is constantly changing hands. We're changing a lot of flags. I can't speak for today itself. I was unfortunately not available. But how do you guys feel about how, despite the kind of ending tickets, how you felt fighting as organized in GC? How did you guys feel about that this campaign?
From an infantry perspective, today went rather well. I mean, all things considered. Was it Rogue Transmission? We did really well, and I believe there was one other map that it was really close right until the last minute. And I think the USSR only won by like 10, maybe 12 tickets. So with just focusing on that, it was really nice. It was a nice campaign.
Yeah, and I have to say that I felt that even though we had the new people like me, stepping to squad lead and taking officers' roles, just like Insanity, just like Jokerly, I think we did quite good, and the whole army, I'm speaking again as a perspective from the USSR, the teamwork was really good. There was understanding between the squads, even with the new guys coming in, and also seeing old timers like Stony, FCing, from a different perspective, not the one that we're used to. It was a nice change, and I think it went very well. And I'm really sad that we had to start the campaign. But I think if the game is good, the future will have even better campaigns than this one and previous games.
Yeah, that is certainly true. So that's our kind of talking about the past campaign. Now it's time to look forward into the next campaign. We're looking at the future of GC, and we had our big discussion earlier with most of the community, and we kind of came to a couple of conclusions. One is we're definitely wanting to continue with Battlefield 4, though it's not going to be until after the performance and balance patch. But we're also looking at expanding into other games. A couple of notable mentions were taking a look at Arma 3 for a campaign, and also maybe other games like Red Orchestra 2. So how do we feel about Battlefield 4 for next campaign, guys? You know, what are we kind of expecting from it? How do you guys feel that we will do? Any names you want to drop in for being generals or whatever like that?
It's always a hard question to find new generals.
It's a good
Poland,
point.
actually-
Yeah, that is a good point. Trying to find generals is difficult. So that's one thing to look at in the next coming weeks. The Senate are probably going to be actioning certain things, such as starting to get the next campaign rolling. We're going to be looking at people applying for generals. If you're interested in any level, now's the time to do it. We're still learning the game, so that means it's a good time for you to learn how to do a general job as well. You're not going to be outclassed by the most part. During the interim, though, I do believe we've got a couple of fun events in early planning stages. Is there anything you kind of want to put out there, Rob? As a senator?
We'll probably be. I said we're definitely going to test the other games, for instance, like Arma, that kind of stuff. We also want to look at trying to fix. We're trying to make the game a bit more fun. For instance, try to ban certain weapons. Maybe even try and get Commander mode back in. That was actually planned for this campaign, but now they've got to end the campaign. I guess we won't be able to try that out anytime. From what I've been hearing from other reports at level and that kind of other communities, the Commander mode does change things a hell of a lot.
I'm really afraid that the new patch will not make the game the way we want it to be. I think we're putting a lot of faith in one patch. It might take some time to have it our way. So it's good to start, working on those balances, trying to ban stuff that we don't like. I think we have to take that time till we find new generals and officers and what have you for a new campaign.
The all important hard thing to find is officers and generals, and you can see most of the officers are worn out as it is in this campaign, and trying a new ones for making guys step up for resort. You can't sort of force people to do it, but at the same time, we also need to find people to do it.
Well, this is my first campaign, sort of, being an officer, being a divisional leader, and being a squad leader, and I enjoyed that. I'm gonna, sign up to do it again, but I definitely feel that I don't have the experience to do a proper job as a general.
But other than that, I don't mind testing other games in between. As I said, I'm here for the community, as most people are, so I really don't mind trying new stuff. I like Battlefield. I would prefer to play Battlefield, but as long as I'm doing it with you guys, the ones that I love so much, I don't mind being Arma 3 or whatever.
I'm definitely curious about Arma 3. However, there was a comment made in our earlier discussion, our group discussion, and I don't know if it was fully explored. I don't know if from a GC community's perspective, if an arcade style type game is more the expectation, and then possibly Arma 3 is unable to fulfill that. I don't know. I'm curious to find out though.
Before we move fully on to Arma 3, I just want to, while Battlefield is still on the table, mention that we will still be doing battles on Saturdays. I believe we have currently kind of started being planned, but it may be delayed due to the campaign end. But we are planning on a Commander mode day on the 1st of February, and we will be continuing up until then with just regular scrims. But moving on to our other games, we just kind of started touching on Arma 3. I can come in with some news on that front. We've already had meeting, and we've got a group of people together to actually start work on how to make Arma 3 what people want for GC style battle. We've actually got Flummy on board, who's got some previous modding experience, and we've already got expanded team working on design documents, what we want from the game. We're looking at things like health, combat, how we want to fight. We're looking at if we want it to be super realistic, like Arma can get, or if we want it arcadey, which Arma can also do. And we already seem to be able to do a lot of what we want fairly easy within the engine, and it's quite possibly going to be a game which we could get a lot of people interested in. We can get arcade combat in Arma. It's not too difficult, I think, so it's something else we're looking at.
Well, that's some good news indeed.
Yeah, and if anyone's interested, the Arma 3 development team is a way to kind of start soon. If you want to be involved in any form, if it's just assisting with the design documents, idea generation, coming into testing, modding yourself. At the moment, we're not looking at things like models and stuff. Thankfully, we can do a lot of stuff in the Arma engine relatively easy with some light code work. But we can go to the full extent of going with custom teams, new weapons, new models, new tanks. We could generate new maps, although that's not quite a big thing because scenarios are a relatively easy thing to do. We can kick out 10 in a couple of hours, unless we're wanting to make entire new islands. If you're interested in helping out in that level, in that team at all, send myself, Gwinzer, a PM on the forum, and we'll chuck you in the user group and you can get access to the forums and stuff. It's open to all. You just got to show interest.
Well, I recently picked up Arma 3, and I think I would be interested in helping out testing whatever you guys come up with.
Yeah, at the moment, what we're kind of basing on a rough idea of what we like in Arma 3 is we play the TAC-BF Tactical Battlefield mod, which there is a thread in the forum created by Hitman, and that is a bit like Project Reality for Battlefield 2. Brought into the Arma engine. It's really, really similar on how things work. You've got your fire bases, you've got your kind of limited classes and stuff like that. And the guys play that quite often in the evenings. You can always just pop on TeamSpeak and someone will walk you through the setup. And I recommend, if you've got Arma 3, give it a shot.
So what is this Red Orchestra people are talking about?
Red Orchestra, that's another game that's been mentioned, is a World War II first-person shooter, which is a bit like classic Battlefields. We're thinking the refactor-based Battlefield 2 1942-ish on how it feels to play, except it's World War II style. It's pretty realistic in many things. I think it takes real battles from history and stuff, and it's an incredibly fun game. Nazis versus Russians, and I think there's also a Americans versus Japanese expansion, which is meant to be incredibly fun.
The Pacific campaign. Yeah, I heard about that's in beta stages right now, right?
And that's one of these games which you could take what you know in Battlefield and you could immediately apply it to Red Orchestra. The base mechanics are the same. You've got your conquest style base captures. I think the spawning is slightly different, but it's not totally different. You've got your overall commander, different classes. I don't think it has the medic system. Like once you're dead, like in 1942. But it's it's one of these games that we could easily just really quickly hop on over to. It's also cheap on Steam. I recommend giving it a look. Look at some gameplay videos on YouTube. It's pretty good game.
If I only knew it was so cheap during the winter sale.
It's still cheap now. It's worth its price for sure. There was also another couple of games mentioned during our big discussion. I can't quite remember any off the top of my head. Anyone?
Well, PlanetSide, but it wasn't really a suggestion, I think, because I don't think it's possible to play it.
Yeah, we did. PlanetSide was mentioned. However, that isn't a game that fits us for. That's not a game that fits us as a kind of competitive community. Though, if you are interested in playing, a big group of us play on SBT +2 on Sundays, and we're hoping to get a kind of larger group going. I think quite a few people were interested today after a meeting, so it's another one to be in. If you're interested in PlanetSide 2, it's a free-to-play game. It's on Steam. Feel free to pick it up and give it a go. It's extremely good for the price. You can't get better than free. Another thing we looked at as well is previous Battlefield versions. We're thinking about, well, we're not thinking, it was suggested to go back to Battlefield 3 possibly. We're also looking at Battlefield 2. You know, we could go further back if we wanted to. 1942, though, I don't think that would go down with a lot of people despite the fact it's now free. So yeah, there's a lot of directions the community could go at the moment. How do you guys feel on the perhaps going back to the other Battlefield games?
Could be a good change, could be a good refresher. Logistically wise, that could be a bit of a problem though. Might really fear of that. Something we need to look into in depth, that's for sure, before we start planning it in advance. I mean, Battle Day switching from Battlefield 4 to Battlefield 3 or Arma 3 to Battlefield 3 could be a little bit of a nightmare. That'll be something that's going to need to require a lot of planning.
Yes, that's certainly true. What I can't say to people who are perhaps a bit financially restricted or just don't like to waste money on games is our next campaign will be Battlefield 4 as far as we know at the moment. We may also be running a second campaign at the same time, which will run on most likely a different day, and that will be for a different game if we decide to go that direction. However, we will definitely have a Battlefield 4 community. Yeah, we will definitely have a Battlefield 4 game.
Well, seeing as how I still have Battlefield 3 installed, I'd be fine to play that again.
Somebody mentioned about Battlefield 3, that even though it's a game that we like and it's pretty non-buggy, the problem are the maps. I think everybody has gotten pretty tired of the maps. I don't know how you feel about it.
Yeah, I have to say, personally, for Battlefield 3, I think I am just not interested anymore. You know, I class my Battlefields as the engine, and we've seen Frostbite, and I'm just not interested in Frostbite anymore. I'd much rather go back to the refractor-based games, which is the Battlefield 2, if we're going to go back at all.
Yeah, that would be a nice change.
Like it's a totally different set of features instead of going back to BF3 would feel like we are taking a step back. Whereas I think going back to Battlefield 2 would be taking a step to the side. In terms of technology, it's definitely a step back, but in terms of gameplay, I do not think that's the case.
Plus, I think there's a lot of people currently in the community that haven't played Battlefield 2, so it would be a nice change indeed.
Yeah, that would be me who hasn't played Battlefield 2. Is it still available?
Yes, actually, it's still available, and I have to say I'm quite guilty. I've only played a little bit of Battlefield 2, and what I like to do is in that special operations expansion, just throwing grappling hooks and climbing on top of buildings. You can't get better than that.
That seems to suit you.
Yeah, as well as a crossbow zipwire. Why the Frostbite games don't have that, I do not know. But yeah, Battlefield 2, it's still incredibly popular as far as I'm led to believe. And so is 1942. Vietnam, not so much. And 2142, not so much. But BF2 and 1942 are still going strong. They still have a really strong multiplayer component in those games.
Yeah, I have 1942, but I haven't played it that much, and in fact, I've uninstalled it.
Alright, a bit of a sudden ending, whatever. Well, thank you for tuning in to this week's Global Podcast. With me today, Gwinzer today, was Robert Willis, Insanity Rocks, and Undertow, with Mr. Blue doing the editing behind the scenes. Thank you for listening to us, and we will be back next week.